The morning sun cast long shadows across the endless piles of broken metal and twisted ship parts. Park Hyun wiped sweat from his forehead as he climbed over a mountain of discarded alien technology. The salvage yards of Neo Sol stretched as far as the eye could see. Filled with the remains of countless battles fought in the darkness between stars, Hyun had been walking through these metal graveyards since he was old enough to hold a plasma cutter. His father had done the same work, and his grandfather before him. 3 generations of his family had made their living by finding treasure in other people's trash. Today felt different, though. Today he hoped to find something that would change his life. The young man paused at the edge of a deep crater filled with shipwreckage. Most of it looked like standard hegemony vessels, their gray holes marked with the 3-circle symbol that now ruled most of the galaxy. But something else caught his eye. Buried beneath a pile of twisted metal plates was something that definitely did not belong. It looked like a person at first glance, but far too large. The figure was icily 3 meters tall and covered in what appeared to be sophisticated armor. The metal had a strange blue-green color that seemed to shift in the light. Strange symbols covered the surface, glowing faintly even though the thing appeared to be completely dead. Hyun climbed down into the crater, his boots crunching on broken glass and metal fragments. The closer he got, the more amazing the armored figure became. This was not just armor, he realized. This was some kind of advanced exoskeleton, like the ones he had seen in old war documentaries. But the design was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The helmet was elegant and angular, with 2 dark optical sensors where eyes should be. The chest piece rose and fell in gentle curves, almost like it was designed to look alive. Most impressive were the arms and legs, which showed incredible attention to detail. Every joint looked like it could move with perfect precision. Hyun pulled out his scanner and pointed it at the mysterious suit. The device beeped and showed readings that made no sense. The scanner detected power sources still active inside the exoskeleton, but the energy signatures were completely unknown. Whatever technology powered this thing, it was far beyond anything humans had developed. He circled around the fallen figure, looking for some way to identify what it was or where it came from. On the back of the helmet, he found a small panel covered in the same glowing symbols. Heen had seen a lot of alien writing in his years as a salvage worker, but these markings were different. They seemed almost familiar, like he should be able to read them even though he knew that was impossible. The smart thing would be to call Lee Wan, his mentor who ran the salvage yard. The older man had decades of experience with alien technology and would know how to handle something this valuable. But Haeon found himself reaching for his plasma cutter instead. Something about the exoskeleton called to him as if it wanted to be awakened. He adjusted the cutter to its lowest setting and carefully aimed at what looked like a power coupling on the chest piece. The plan was simple: cut away some of the outer plating to see the technology inside. If he was lucky, he might find some valuable components that could be sold to collectors. The plasma beam touched the metal, and immediately something went wrong. Instead of cutting through the plating, the energy seemed to be absorbed into the exoskeleton itself. The glowing symbols became brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Deep inside the chest cavity, lights began to flicker on. Haeon jumped back as mechanical sounds echoed from within the suit. Ow. Motors whirred to life, and hydraulic systems hissed as they pressurized. The optical sensors in the helmet suddenly blazed with brilliant blue light. The massive head turned slowly until those glowing eyes focused directly on him. For a moment, neither human nor machine moved. Hyun stood frozen with his plasma cutter still in hand, staring at something that should have been impossible. Exoskeleton was clearly ancient and had been buried in this junkyard for who knows how long. There was no way it should still be functional. Then the impossible became even more impossible. The exoskeleton spoke. "My Lord Commander," it said in perfect Korean, its voice deep and resonant. "You have returned to me at last." Hyun nearly dropped his cutter. Not only was the thing talking, but it was using his language with no trace of an accent. The voice sounded almost human, but with an electronic undertone that made it clear this was some kind of artificial intelligence. "I think you have made a mistake," Hyun said carefully, taking another step backward. I am just a salvage worker. I found you in the junk pile. The exoskeleton slowly pushed itself up from the ground, rising to its full impressive height. Even damaged and covered in dirt, it moved with surprising grace. The AI tilted its head as if considering his words. No mistake, my lord. I have run full biometric scans. Your genetic patterns match those of Commander Thale of the Corvani Empire. Your neural pathways show the same unique structures. You are my bonded warrior, returned to me through the sacred cycle of rebirth. Hune stared at the machine in disbelief. Corvani Empire. He had heard that name before in old history files and banned documents. The Corvani had been a powerful civilization that fought against the hegemony centuries ago. They had lost that war completely, with their entire species supposedly extinct. Listen, Hune said, trying to keep his voice calm. I do not know who this Commander Thale was, but I am not him. My name is Park Hune. I live in Neo Sol with my sister. I work in the salvage yards. I have never been a commander of anything. The AI stepped closer, its movements smooth and controlled despite its massive size. The memories may not have returned yet, my lord. Reincarnation can be difficult, and much time has passed since your noble sacrifice at the Battle of Corvin Prime. But your essence remains unchanged. I would know you anywhere. The machine knelt down, bringing its optical sensors level with Hayen's eyes. Up close, he could see incredible detail in the construction. This was not just advanced technology, this was art. Every piece had been crafted with care and precision that spoke of a civilization far more sophisticated than anything he had encountered. I am Guardian Prime, the AI continued. I was forged to serve the Corvani royal family and bonded specifically to you, Commander Thale. For 317 years, I have waited in sleep mode for your return, now that you are here. We can begin the work of reclaiming our empire and freeing the galaxy from hegemony oppression. Before Hayon could respond, he heard voices calling his name from above. Li Wan and several other salvage workers had heard the commotion and were climbing down into the crater. They stopped dead when they saw the towering exoskeleton kneeling beside him. Hune Li Wan called out, his voice tight with worry. Step away from that thing slowly. Guardian Prime turned its head toward the approaching humans. Fear not, loyal subjects. I mean no harm to the companions of my Lord Commander. I exist only to serve and protect. The AI looked back at Hayon, and somehow its mechanical features seemed to convey hope and devotion. Together, my lord, we shall restore honor to the Corvani name and bring justice to those who have suffered under tyranny. Are you ready to reclaim your destiny? Hayon looked up at the expectant faces of his friends, then back at the ancient war machine that insisted he was someone he had never heard of. His quiet life as a salvage worker was clearly over. The only question now was what would replace it. The walk home from the salvage yard had never been more difficult. Guardian Prime followed Hayon through the narrow streets of Neo Sol like a giant metal shadow. The AI tried its best to avoid damaging property, carefully stepping around parked vehicles and ducking under low bridges. Still, people stopped and stared wherever they went. You cannot follow me everywhere, Hayon said, for the 10th time, as they approached his apartment building. People will think I have lost my mind. I cannot be separated from my bonded commander, Guardian Prime replied patiently. It goes against my core programming. Where you go, I must follow. This is the way of the Corvani warrior bond. Hune sighed and looked up at his small apartment on the 15th floor. The building was old and cramped, designed for normal-sized humans. There was no way the 3-meter-tall exoskeleton would fit through the door, let alone the elevator. Guardian Prime seemed to understand the problem. The AI examined the building carefully, then began to change. Plates of armor shifted and folded inward with soft mechanical sounds. The massive frame compressed itself, becoming more human-sized while still maintaining its basic shape. Within minutes, Guardian Prime had shrunk to just over 2 meters tall. Adaptive configuration protocols, the AI explained. Commander Thale sometimes needed to move through tight spaces during covert operations. I was designed to adjust my size as needed. It rode the elevator in awkward silence. Hune stared at the floor numbers, while Guardian Prime stood perfectly still. Its optical sensors dimmed to avoid frightening other residents. When they finally reached the 15th floor, Heian realized he had no idea how to explain any of this. To his sister, Kim Soo was home early from her job at the planetary defense grid. She worked with computers and data analysis, spending her days tracking ships and monitoring communication channels. It was boring work, but it paid well enough. To help support them both, the apartment door slid open before Heian could even reach for his keycard. Sue stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock as she took in the sight of her brother, accompanied by an alien war machine. "Hugh," she said slowly, "why is there a robot following you?" "It is a long story," Hyun began, but Guardian Prime stepped forward and bowed deeply. "Lady Sister of the Commander," the AI said with great respect, "I am Guardian Prime, sworn protector of your noble brother. It is my honor to meet family of my bonded lord." Sue looked from the bowing robot to her brother and back again. "Your bonded Lord Heian, what have you gotten yourself into?" Over the next hour, Heian tried to explain everything that had happened at the salvage yard. Sue listened without interruption, her face growing more concerned with each detail. Guardian Prime remained silent during most of the story, only speaking when asked direct questions about Corvain history or technology. "So this machine thinks you are some kind of reincarnated alien king," Sue summarized when Heian finished. "What wants you to start a rebellion against the Galactic government?" "Ever said anything about rebellion?" Guardian Prime corrected. "Politely, I said, we must free the galaxy from hegemony oppression. There are many ways to accomplish this goal." "Those sound like the same thing to me," Sue replied. The AI considered this for a moment. "Perhaps you are correct. The hegemony will not give up their power willingly. But first, my Lord Commander must remember who he truly is." Guardian Prime moved to the center of the small living room and activated a holographic projector built into its chest. The air filled with three-dimensional images of incredible beauty and scope. Hyun and Sue found themselves looking at entire star systems, massive space cities, and technology beyond imagination. This was the Corvani Empire at its height, Guardian Prime explained. "We ruled over 400 star systems and protected countless smaller civilizations. Our people believed in honor, justice, and the right of all beings to determine their own destiny." The images changed to show Corvani warriors in exoskeletons similar to Guardian Prime. They were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. Their cities were works of art, blending advanced technology with natural beauty in ways that took the breath away. "Your people were beautiful," Sue whispered. "They were your people too, Lady Sister." Commander Thale had a younger sister named Kala, who served as his chief advisor. She was known throughout the Empire for her wisdom and loyalty. "I see much of her in you." The hologram shifted again, this time showing scenes of war. Massive hegemony fleets attacked Corvani worlds while desperate defenders fought back with everything they had. Cities burned and ships exploded in the cold darkness of space. It was clear that the Corvani were losing despite their advanced technology and brave warriors. The war lasted 73 years, Guardian Prime continued. The hegemony had numbers on their side, and they were willing to destroy entire planets to achieve victory. Our people fought to the end, but we could not protect everyone. The final images showed a single figure in ornate armor standing alone on a burning battlefield. Even through the hologram, Hyun could see the resemblance. The face was different, but the build and posture were remarkably similar to his own. "Commander Thale made the ultimate sacrifice," Guardian Prime said softly. "He challenged the hegemony champion to single combat, knowing he could not win. But his death bought time for the last evacuation ships to escape. Thousands of innocent lives were saved because of his courage." The hologram faded, leaving the apartment feeling strangely empty. Sue wiped tears from her eyes, while Heian stared at the spot where his supposed previous incarnation had stood. "Even if I was this Commander Thale," Hyun said finally, "that was 300 years ago. The war is over. Corvani are gone. What would be the point of fighting now?" Guardian Prime turned its optical sensors toward him. "The war is not over, my lord. It simply moved to a different phase. The hegemony still oppresses billions of beings across the galaxy. They strip mine entire worlds, enslave populations, and destroy any culture that does not conform to their vision of unity. The need for justice is as great now as it ever was." Before Heian could respond, a soft chiming sound filled the apartment. It was coming from their climate control system, which had been broken for weeks. Guardian Prime moved to examine the wall panel, extending thin mechanical tendrils from its fingertips. "Allow me to repair this for you," the AI said. "It is a simple matter." Within minutes, cool air began flowing through the vents again. Guardian Prime had not only fixed the broken system, but somehow improved it. The air felt cleaner and fresher than it had in years. "How did you do that?" Sue asked. "Corvani technology includes adaptive nanotechnology," Guardian Prime explained. "I can manufacture replacement parts and perform repairs on most mechanical systems. It is one of my basic functions." Sue looked thoughtful. "Could you fix other things? Our water recycler has been acting strange lately." "Of course, lady sister. I exist to serve the family of my commander." As Guardian Prime worked on their apartment systems, Hyun found himself watching the AI with growing confusion. This was supposed to be a fearsome war machine, designed for battle and destruction. But it seemed more interested in helping with household repairs and treating his sister with gentle respect. "Guardian Prime," he said finally. "What do you actually want from me?" The AI paused in its work and looked at him directly. "I want you to become the leader you were meant to be, my lord. Not because of who you were in a past life, but because of who you are now. I have observed your interactions with others. Show kindness to those weaker than yourself. You work hard to support your family. You treat even broken machines with respect. These are the qualities of a true Corvani commander, but I am just a salvage worker." Commander Thale was just a minor noble before the war began, Guardian Prime replied. "Leadership is not about birth or station. It is about the willingness to stand up for what is right, even when the cost is high. You already possess this quality, Lord Heian. I simply wish to help you develop it." That night, as Guardian Prime stood silent watch in their living room, Hyun lay awake thinking about everything he had learned. Part of him wanted to believe it was all an elaborate mistake, but another part, a part he tried to ignore, wondered what it would be like to actually make a difference in the galaxy, outside their window. The lights of Neo-Sol stretched to the horizon. Somewhere beyond those lights, beyond Earth itself, billions of beings lived under hegemony rule. If Guardian Prime was right, many of them were suffering in ways Han could barely imagine. The question that kept him awake was simple but terrifying. What was he going to do about it? 3 days had passed since Guardian Prime had entered their lives. Heian tried to maintain his normal routine, but nothing felt normal anymore. The AI followed him to work each morning, waiting patiently while he sorted through scrap metal and salvaged components. Other workers whispered and pointed, but Li Wan had forbidden anyone from reporting the situation to the authorities. "That thing is worth more than this entire salvage yard," the older man had said. "We keep quiet about it until we figure out what to do." Hyun was grateful for his mentor's protection, but he could see the worry in Li Wan's eyes. They all knew that something this significant could not stay secret forever. Advanced alien technology had a way of attracting the wrong kind of attention. That attention came on a gray morning when the mist hung low over the salvage yards. Hyun was working in the deep sections, far from the main road, when Guardian Prime suddenly went rigid. The AI's optical sensors blazed brighter as internal systems activated with rapid clicking sounds. "My lord," Guardian Prime said urgently, "we are no longer alone. Detect multiple hostile signatures approaching from the north and east. Military-grade equipment and enhanced human biosignatures." "What does that mean?" Hyun asked, though he was already afraid of the answer. "It means the hegemony has found us." Before Hyun could respond, the morning silence exploded into chaos. Black aircraft dropped from the low clouds, their engines screaming as they descended toward the salvage yard. Soldiers rappelled from the ships, their armor reflecting the dim sunlight as they spread out in practiced formations. Guardian Prime immediately moved to shield Heian with its massive frame. "Combat protocols activated," the AI announced. "Protecting bonded commander is primary objective." The first enemy soldiers appeared between the piles of scrap metal, their weapons already raised and ready to fire. These were not ordinary hegemony troops. Their armor was sleek and black, with red optical sensors where their faces should be. Cybernetic implants gleamed along their arms and necks, marking them as enhanced soldiers. The target acquired one of them called out in a cold, mechanical voice. Corvani technology confirmed. Initiating capture protocol. Surrender the alien artifact, another soldier demanded through external speakers. Resistance will result in termination. Guardian Prime stepped forward, and suddenly, it was no longer the gentle helper that had been fixing their apartment. This was a war machine awakening after centuries of sleep. Weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments in its arms and shoulders. Energy began to gather around its hands with a dangerous humming sound. I am Guardian Prime of the Corvani Royal Guard, the AI declared. I do not surrender to enemies of the Empire. The battle erupted without further warning. The hegemony soldiers opened fire with plasma rifles and particle beams. Guardian Prime moved with impossible speed for something so large, dodging some attacks. While absorbing others on its heavily armored frame, turned fire from the AI's weapons lit up the morning sky with brilliant flashes of energy, hand crouched behind a pile of ship hulls, watching in amazement and terror as Guardian Prime fought. The AI moved like a dancer, every motion precise and deadly. Enemy soldiers fell one by one, their enhanced armor no match for Corvani weapons technology, but more kept coming. Wave after wave of black-armored figures poured into the salvage yard. Supported by flying drones and heavy weapons platforms, Guardian Prime was incredibly powerful, but even it could not fight an entire army alone. Hyun, a familiar voice called from across the battlefield. Get down, it was Choi Min, his young apprentice. The 19-year-old was running between the metal piles, trying to reach safety. A squad of soldiers spotted him and opened fire. Min dodged desperately, but he was not fast enough. Guardian Prime saw the danger and made an instant decision. The AI abandoned its defensive position and charged. Across the battlefield, placing itself between Min and the attacking soldiers, energy bolts meant for the young man struck Guardian Prime instead. Leaving glowing scorch marks on its armor, the rescue worked, but it left Guardian Prime exposed. A new group of soldiers appeared from behind, led by a figure in more elaborate armor. This one was different from the others, where they moved like machines. This leader moved with fluid grace. When it spoke, the voice was cultured and intelligent. I am Interrogator Vex of the Hegemony Intelligence Division, the figure announced. I have spent decades hunting Corvani artifacts. It is fascinating to finally encounter one that still functions. Vex raised a strange weapon that looked more like a scientific instrument than a gun. This device fires a specialized virus designed to corrupt AI systems. I developed it specifically for machines like you. Guardian Prime turned to face this new threat, but hesitated. Protecting Heian and Min meant it could not attack Vex directly without exposing them to crossfire from the other soldiers. Your loyalty is admirable, Vex continued, but ultimately pointless. The Corvani Empire is dead. Your bonded commander is just a confused human who happened to have the right genetic markers. Surrender now, and I will ensure his death is quick. Never, Guardian Prime replied. The AI made a desperate gambit. It activated every weapon system simultaneously, filling the air with devastating energy fire. The attacking soldiers were forced to take cover, giving Han and Min a chance to run. But the effort left Guardian Prime's power systems dangerously drained. That was when Li Wan made his choice. The older man appeared from behind a wrecked starship. Carrying an industrial plasma cutter modified to maximum power, he had spent his entire life working with salvaged weapons, and he knew exactly where to aim. For the boy, Li Wan shouted as he fired at the fuel cells of a nearby hegemony aircraft. The explosion was tremendous. The aircraft crashed into a group of soldiers, creating chaos in their ranks. But the blast also caught Li Wan in its radius. Hyun watched in horror as his mentor disappeared in the flames and smoke. No, Hyun screamed, trying to run toward the wreckage. Guardian Prime caught him and held him back. He is gone, my lord, the AI said gently. But his sacrifice has given us a chance to escape. We must not waste it. More explosions echoed across the salvage yard as other aircraft moved in to support the ground troops. Guardian Prime scooped up both Hyun and Min, then activated its flight systems. Ancient Corvani technology lifted them into the air, just as the ground where they had been standing erupted in plasma fire. They flew low and fast through the maze of Neosol's industrial district. Guardian Prime's sensors tracked dozens of pursuit vehicles. But the AI knew the city better now after days of exploring with Hune. It led them through narrow passages and underground tunnels that larger craft could not follow finally. They landed in an abandoned subway station deep beneath the city. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls as Guardian Prime set them down gently. Min was shaking with shock, his eyes wide with the memory of violence and death. Lee Won saved us, the young man whispered. He died for us. Guardian Prime's optical sensors dimmed in what seemed like grief. He died with honor, as a true warrior should. His sacrifice will be remembered. Hayan knelt beside the wall, his hands shaking as the reality of their situation sank in. I killed him because of me. Because I found you. No, my lord, Guardian Prime said firmly. They killed him because they are what they have always been. Destroyers, oppressors, enemies of all free beings in the galaxy. The AI knelt beside Hayan, bringing its massive head down to eye level. This is why the Corvani fought. This is why. We must fight again, not for revenge, but to prevent this from happening to others. I am just one person, Hyun said bitterly. What can I possibly do against an entire galactic empire? You can begin, Guardian Prime replied. Every great journey starts with a single step. Commander Thale was also just one person when he started, but he inspired others to join him. Together, they achieved things that seemed impossible. Min looked up from where he sat against the tunnel wall. What about my family? What about Sue? They are hunting us. Everyone we care about is in danger. Guardian Prime was quiet for a long moment, processing this concern. You are correct. Association with us has put them at risk, but abandoning them will not make them safe. The hegemony does not forgive or forget. They will use anyone connected to us as leverage. Then what do? Hyun asked. We do what the Corvani have always done, Guardian Prime replied. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. But first, we must become strong enough to make a difference. The AI activated its internal communication systems. I am sending a coded message to your sister. She will know to go into hiding and wait for contact. Her skills with planetary defense systems will be valuable to our cause. Our cause? Dylan looked at the ancient war machine with growing understanding. You really mean to do this? Start a rebellion against the hegemony? I mean to finish what my people started 3 centuries ago, Guardian Prime said. The question is whether you will help me, Lord Hain. The choice must be yours alone. Han thought of Lee Won's sacrifice, of his sister's worried face, of young Min's terror as soldiers tried to kill him. He thought of the billions of beings across the galaxy who lived under hegemony rule, many of them probably suffering in ways he could not imagine. The choice when it came was easier than he had expected. Tell me what we need to do, Hayan, said Kwai. The journey to the asteroid belt took 3 days in a stolen hegemony transport ship. Guardian Prime had modified the vessel extensively, replacing its weapon systems with Corvani technology and upgrading its engines for better speed. Hyun learned to pilot the ship during the long flight. Guided by the AI's patient instruction, Min spent most of the journey staring out at the stars, shaken by everything that had happened. The young man had never been off Earth before, and the vast emptiness of space seemed to weigh heavily on him. Hyun tried to offer comfort, but he was struggling with his own doubts about their mission. Are you sure this place still exists? Hyun asked, as they approached the coordinates Guardian Prime had provided. It has been 300 years. Corvani strongholds were built to last, the AI replied. This facility was designed to remain hidden and functional for millennia if necessary. It should still be waiting for us. The asteroid they sought looked exactly like hundreds of others in the belt. Gray rock tumbling slowly through space, showing no signs of artificial construction. But when Guardian Prime transmitted an ancient access code, a section of the asteroid's surface slid away to reveal a massive docking bay. The hidden facility was enormous. Corridors carved from solid rock stretched 4 kilometers, lined with chambers that had once housed thousands of Corvani warriors. Emergency lighting activated as they walked through the empty halls, casting long shadows that made their footsteps echo strangely. "This place feels like a tomb," Min whispered. "In a way it is," Guardian Prime agreed, "but it is also a cradle. New life can grow from the remains of the old." They finally reached the central chamber, a vast spherical room with crystalline formations growing from every surface. The crystals pulsed with soft light, creating patterns that seemed almost alive. Guardian Prim approached the largest formation and placed its hand against the smooth surface. Awakening sequence initiated, the AI announced. Corvani archive responding. The crystals blazed with sudden brightness. Images filled the air as holographic projectors activated throughout the chamber. Hyun found himself surrounded by dozens of figures that looked exactly like Guardian Prime, but each with subtle differences in design and coloring. "Welcome back, Guardian Prime," one of the holograms said. "We have been waiting." "I bring news," Guardian Prime replied. "I have found a worthy successor to Commander Thale. The resistance can begin again." The assembled AI personalities turned their attention to Hyun. He felt their gaze like a physical weight as they scanned him with invisible sensors. These were the preserved minds of ancient Corvani warriors, each one a master of combat and strategy. "This human shows no military training," observed an AI with blue markings on its armor. "How can he lead warriors who have fought for centuries?" "He possesses something more valuable than training," Guardian Prime answered. "He possesses the heart of a true leader. I have seen him risk his life for others without hesitation. I have seen him show kindness to the weak and respect for the fallen." Another AI stepped forward, this one bearing gold accents on its chest plate. "Leadership requires more than a good heart. It requires knowledge of tactics, understanding of enemy, capabilities, wisdom in making difficult choices." "Then we will teach him," Guardian Prim said simply. "As we taught Commander Thale when he was young and inexperienced." The debate continued for nearly an hour. Some AIs argued that humans could never understand Corvani ways. Others pointed out that their own people were extinct, making adaptation necessary for survival. Hyun listened to it all with growing amazement at the complexity of these artificial minds. Finally, the gold-marked AI raised its hand for silence. "I am Strategic Prime, former advisor to the Corvani High Command. If this human truly wishes to carry on our mission, he must prove himself worthy." "Are you prepared to undergo the trials, Parkan of Earth?" "What kind of trials?" Heian asked. Strategic Prime gestured to the chamber around them. "Combat training, tactical education, leadership exercises. You will learn to fight as we fought, think as we thought, and lead as we led. The process will be difficult and dangerous. Many Corvani nobles failed these same tests." Hien looked at Min, who nodded encouragingly despite his obvious fear. Then he looked at Guardian Prime, whose optical sensors showed unwavering faith in his abilities. Finally, he thought of Li Wan, and all the innocent people suffering under hegemony rule. "I accept," he said. The training began immediately. The AI personalities took turns teaching different aspects of warfare and leadership. Combat Prime showed him how to fight with energy weapons and hand-to-hand techniques. Tactical Prime explained fleet movements and battlefield strategy. Diplomatic Prime taught him about different alien cultures and their needs. The physical training was exhausting. The AIs pushed Hien beyond what he thought were his limits, then demanded more. They made him practice weapon drills until his arms ached, run obstacle courses until his lungs burned, and solve tactical problems while under extreme stress. But the mental training was even harder. The AIs filled his mind with knowledge about galactic politics, military history, and the complex relationships between hundreds of different species. They showed him recordings of battles, negotiations, and moments when single decisions changed. The fate of entire civilizations, Min, proved surprisingly valuable during this process. His youth and fresh perspective often led to insights that impressed even the ancient AIs. Combat Prime began training him as well, recognizing natural talent for technical systems and communications. Your companion has the makings of an excellent support specialist, the AI told Heian after one particularly intense session. The Corvani always valued such skills highly. Meanwhile, Guardian Prime worked on establishing contact with resistance groups across the galaxy. The hidden facility contained communication equipment capable of reaching any star system, though most transmissions had to be carefully encrypted to avoid hegemony detection. The first positive response came from the Velthari, an aquatic species, whose homeworld had been strip-mined by hegemony corporations. Their representative was an elderly female named Elder Nea, who appeared via hologram with tears streaming down her scaled face. "The stories are true then," she said. "The Corvani have returned to us." "Not returned," Heian corrected gently. "But their mission continues. We want to help your people reclaim what was taken from you." "Our oceans are poisoned," Elder Naya replied. "Our young die from contamination that the hegemony says is necessary for industrial progress. We have tried peaceful protests, but they ignore us. We've tried legal action, but their courts serve only their interests." Strategic Prime leaned forward. "What about military resistance? Do your people have weapons or ships? We are not warriors." "By nature," the elder admitted. "But desperation has forced us to learn. We have small raiding groups that attack hegemony supply convoys. It accomplishes little, but it shows we have not given up hope." Over the following weeks, more contacts were established. The Thexani, a proud warrior race reduced to serving as hegemony enforcers, sent secret messages expressing interest in rebellion. The Morphex Collective, a group mind that valued individual freedom above all else, offered to share intelligence about hegemony military movements. Each new ally brought both hope and additional responsibility. Heian found himself making decisions that would affect millions of lives. The weight of that responsibility sometimes threatened to crush him, but Guardian Prime was always there to offer guidance and support. Commander Thale faced the same fears. The AI reminded him during one particularly difficult night. The difference between a true leader and a false one is not the absence of doubt, but the willingness to act despite that doubt. The breakthrough came when Strategic Prime announced that the ancient weapons caches were still intact. Hidden throughout the galaxy were stockpiles of Corvani military equipment, waiting to be activated by the proper command codes. Each cache contains enough weapons and armor to equip a full battalion, the AI explained. There are also ships, including several heavy cruisers that were hidden before the final battle. With these resources, we could arm a real resistance force. Heian studied the tactical displays showing cache locations across dozens of star systems. "How do we reach them without alerting the hegemony?" "Carefully," Strategic Prime replied. "And with help from our new allies, the Velthari have offered to provide transport ships. The Thexani can supply intelligence about hegemony patrol routes. The Morphex Collective will handle communications coordination." "What about Sue?" Min asked. "Has she made contact yet?" Shh. Guardian Primes. Optical sensors dimmed slightly. "Your sister has been forced to go deeper underground than anticipated. Hegemony security forces are actively hunting anyone connected to the salvage yard attack. But I have received confirmation that she is safe and working to establish a resistance cell on Earth." The AI paused, then continued more quietly. "She also sends a message. She says to tell you that Li 1 would be proud of what you are becoming." Heian felt a surge of emotion at those words. His mentor's sacrifice had started this journey, and now it was growing into something that might actually make a difference. The scared salvage worker who had found Guardian Prime in a junk pile was gone. In his place stood someone who was learning to think like a commander and act like a leader. "When do we begin the real mission?" he asked. Strategic Prime's holographic form seemed to smile. "Tomorrow, we retrieve the first weapons cache. After that, we start building an army." Heian nodded, feeling both terrified and excited about what lay ahead. The boy who had wanted nothing more than a quiet life was about to become the focal point of a galactic rebellion. Whether he was ready or not, the war for freedom was about to begin again. The ancient Corvani facility hummed with a renewed purpose. As its AI inhabitants prepared for battles they had dreamed of fighting for 3 centuries, in the depths of space, Revolution was stirring once more. The first weapons cache was hidden inside a dead moon, orbiting a gas giant in the Kepler system. Guardian Prime and Heian approached carefully in a small scout ship. While Min coordinated with resistance cells from the main facility, the cache had been sealed for over 3 centuries. But the Corvani locks still recognized Guardian Prime's command codes. Inside the ancient vault, they found enough military equipment to arm 1,000 soldiers. Energy rifles, combat armor, medical supplies, and even a few small warships sat waiting in perfect preservation. The technology was still centuries ahead of anything the hegemony used. "This is just one of 47 caches," Guardian Prime noted as they loaded supplies onto their transport ships. "If we can reach even half of them, we will have the tools needed for real resistance." The liberation of the cache went perfectly, but their success did not go unnoticed. Hegemony intelligence networks detected the energy signatures when the vault was opened. Within hours, patrol fleets were moving to investigate. Over the next month, the pattern repeated across 12-star systems. The resistance would strike fast, grab what they could, and disappear before hegemony forces arrived. Each successful raid brought more weapons and encouraged more species to join their cause. But the hegemony was learning too. They began deploying faster response teams and setting traps around suspected cache locations. The resistance had, too, become more careful, more clever, and sometimes accept that certain caches were too dangerous to attempt. The real test came when Elder Naya requested help liberating a Velthari prison station. Thousands of her people were being held there, forced to work in toxic mining operations that were slowly killing them. The station was heavily defended, but Strategic Prime believed it could be taken with careful planning. Keon found himself leading a strike force of mixed species for the first time. Velthari water fighters worked alongside Thexani warriors and human volunteers that Su had recruited from Earth's underground networks. Guardian Prime served as his second-in-command. Coordinating the attack with tactical precision, the assault began at dawn, local time. Resistance ships emerged from hyperspace at multiple points around the prison station, confusing the defenders about where the main attack would come. While hegemony fighters scrambled to respond, Hyun led a boarding party directly into the stations. Docking Bay. The fighting was fierce, but brief. Hegemony soldiers were well-trained and well-equipped, but they had never faced Corvani weapons before. The ancient energy rifles cut through their armor like paper, while Corvani combat suits made their wearers nearly invincible. Guardian Prime carved a path through the station's corridors, its weapon systems operating at full power. The AI moved with deadly grace, protecting the boarding party while eliminating any serious resistance. Behind it, Velthari fighters used their natural swimming abilities to move through the station's flooded sections where humans could not follow. The prison levels were horrific. Thousands of Velthari were packed into cells barely large enough for half their number. Many were sick from exposure to industrial chemicals. Others had been injured in mining accidents and left without proper medical care. The sight filled Heian with rage at the casual cruelty of their oppressors. "Get them to the rescue ships," he ordered. "All of them. We leave no one behind." The evacuation took longer than planned. Many prisoners were too weak to move quickly, and some had to be carried on stretchers. Precious minutes ticked by as hegemony reinforcements gathered in the system. They were loading the last group of prisoners when the trap was sprung. A massive hegemony battleship dropped out of hyperspace directly above the station. Its weapons began charging immediately, targeting the rescue ships that were still docked. "My lord," Guardian Prime said urgently, "we must leave immediately. That vessel has enough firepower to destroy this entire station." "Not without the prisoners," Hyun replied. "There are still 200 Velthari on the lower levels." Strategic Prim's voice crackled over the communication system from the main resistance fleet. "The tactical situation is impossible. If you do not withdraw now, everyone will die." Hyun looked at the tactical display showing the approaching battleship. Guardian Prime was right. They had maybe 5 minutes before the hegemony ship opened. Fire. But leaving 200 innocent beings to die was unthinkable. "Guardian Prime," he said finally, "can you hold off that battleship long enough for us to finish the evacuation?" The AI's optical sensors focused on him, possibly, but not from here. I would need to take a ship and engage it directly. The chances of survival would be very small. Then, we all go together. We can fight our way out. No, my lord. You are needed to lead the resistance. I am expendable. Before Heian could argue, Guardian Prime was moving. The AI commandeered one of the captured hegemony fighters and launched into space. Heian watched helplessly as his companion accelerated toward the massive battleship, weapons firing. The small fighter looked like an insect attacking a giant. The battleship's defensive systems locked onto Guardian Prime immediately, filling space with deadly energy beams. But the AI flew with inhuman precision. Dodging most attacks while returning fire at critical system nodes, Guardian Prime's assault bought them the time they needed. The last rescue ships escaped the station just as the battleship's main guns finally found their target. The fighter exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking Guardian Prime with it. "Ah!" Heian screamed, but it was too late. His companion, mentor, and friend was gone. The resistance fleet escaped, but their victory felt hollow. They had saved thousands of Velthari lives, but at the cost of the AI that had started their entire movement. Hyun sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where Guardian Prime had died. The hegemony's response was swift and brutal. Within days, news reports flooded the galactic networks. 3 Velthari colonies had been bombarded from orbit. Millions of innocent civilians were dead, killed as punishment for the prison station raid. They are trying to break our spirit, Strategic Prime explained during an emergency meeting. This is standard hegemony tactics. Make the cost of resistance so high that people give up hope. Heian stared at the casualty reports with growing horror. Those people died because of what we did, because of choices I made,
Elder Naya
said firmly. They died because the hegemony chose to murder them. We did not pull those triggers. We cannot take responsibility for their evil actions. But the weight of command was crushing Heian. He had wanted to help people, to fight for freedom and justice. Instead, his actions had led to more death and suffering than he could have imagined. Min found him later that night, sitting alone in Guardian Prime's former quarters. The room was exactly as the AI had left it, with technical manuals and tactical reports scattered across the desk. Sue sent a message, Min said quietly. The hegemony is mobilizing against Earth. They plan to make an example of your homeworld. Looked up with tired eyes. How many more will die because of me? How many will die if you give up? Min replied. Guardian Prime believed in you. He died believing that you could finish what the Corvani started. Are you going to prove it wrong? The young man sat down across from him. Li Wan used to say that the hardest part of being a leader was learning to live with the consequences of your choices. Good leaders make decisions anyway, because not choosing is also a choice. Heian thought about Guardian Prime's final transmission. The AI had called him worthy of the Corvani legacy, not because he was some reincarnated commander, but because he was willing to sacrifice for others. Now he faced the ultimate test of that worthiness. Strategic Prime appeared as a hologram in the doorway. My lord, we have received intelligence about the hegemony's planned assault on Earth. They are gathering a fleet at Fortress Erebus, their most heavily defended military station. If we could destroy that fleet before it launches, it would be suicide, Han said. Erebus is protected by energy shields and hundreds of weapon platforms. No fleet has ever successfully attacked it. No conventional fleet. Strategic Prime. Agreed, but we are not conventional. We have something the hegemony does not expect. We have the desperation of the oppressed and the technology of the Corvani. Most importantly, we have a leader willing to make the hard choices. Hyun stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars where so many innocents had died. Guardian Prime had given its life to save prisoners who were strangers to it. Li Wan had died protecting someone he barely knew. Elder Naya had risked everything to free her people from slavery. What would the assault plan look like? He asked. Strategic Prime's hologram smiled. Dangerous, desperate, and possibly the only chance we will ever have to strike a blow that might actually end this war. Hien thought of Earth, his home, threatened by hegemony vengeance. He thought of billions of beings across the galaxy, living under oppression. He thought of Guardian Prim's faith in him and the promise he had made to carry on the Corvani legacy. The choice when it came was easier than he expected. "Show me the plan," he said. Strategic Prime nodded approvingly. "The assault on Fortress. Erebus will require everything we have: ships, weapons, and the lives of everyone who volunteers. Many will not return." "I know," Han replied quietly. "But Guardian Prime was right about one thing. Some battles are worth fight." Fortress Erebus floated in the darkness between stars like a metallic moon. The massive space station bristled with weapon platforms and defense grids that had never been breached in 2 centuries of operation. Around it, the largest hegemony. Fleet ever assembled, prepared for the assault on Earth. Heen stood on the bridge of the Resistance flagship, watching the enemy fortress through the viewscreen. Ships from dozens of species surrounded him, all united by their hatred of hegemony oppression. Velthari waterships moved alongside Thexani battlecruisers. Human vessels flew in formation with alien craft whose names he was still learning to pronounce. Final fleet count shows 800 ships, Strategic Prime reported. Against an estimated 2,000 hegemony vessels plus the fortress defenses, the odds are not favorable. "They never have been," Hune replied quietly. "But Guardian Prime taught me that sometimes the hardest battles are the most important ones to fight." Min approached from the communications station, his face grim with the latest intelligence reports. "Sue confirms that the Earth's assault fleet will launch in 6 hours. If we do not stop them here, our homeworld will burn." The plan was desperate but simple. The Resistance fleet would attack Fortress Erebus in 3 waves, drawing away the defensive ships while a small strike team infiltrated the station itself. Their mission was to disable the fortress shields from within, allowing the main fleet to target the station's power core. Hune would lead the infiltration team personally. It was the most dangerous assignment, but he refused to ask others to take risks he would not share. Strategeek Prime had argued against this decision, but Hyan's mind was made up. "A leader who sends others to die while staying safe is not worthy of command," he had said. "Guardian Prime died protecting others. I can do no less." The first wave of the attack began exactly on schedule. Resistance fighters screamed toward the fortress at maximum speed, their weapons blazing. The response was immediate and devastating. Erebus unleashed a storm of energy that lit up space like a miniature star. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes as defensive systems found their targets, but the Resistance pilots pressed on. Inspired by their faith in the cause and their leader, they wove between the defensive fire, striking at weapon platforms and communication arrays. For every ship they lost, they destroyed something vital to the fortress defenses. The second wave came from an unexpected direction, exploiting gaps in the defensive grid created by the first assault. Elder Naya led this attack personally, her aquatic ship design allowing maneuvers that confused the hegemony targeting systems. More weapon platforms fell silent as Velthari torpedo strikes found their marks. During the chaos of the second assault, Hune's strike team reached the fortress in a stolen hegemony transport. The ship's identification codes, provided by Thexani intelligence, got them through the outer defenses without challenge. They docked in a maintenance bay far from the main. Fighting the team was small, but capable. Min handled technical systems and communications. A Velthari warrior named Kale provided aquatic combat expertise. 2 Thexani soldiers, Dex and Goem, served as heavy assault specialists. Leading them all was Haon, wearing armor that had once belonged to a Corvani commander. The fortress interior was a maze of corridors and defensive checkpoints. Hune had studied the blueprints for weeks, but navigating the real thing proved far more difficult. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows as they moved through sections that seemed designed to confuse invaders. Shield generators 12 levels. "Down," Min whispered as they reached a central elevator shaft. "But there are guard posts at every level." "We go through them," Hyan replied. "Fast and quiet. No alarms if we can help it." The descent became a series of running battles. Hegemony soldiers appeared around every corner, their enhanced reflexes and cybernetic implants, making them formidable opponents. But the strike team had advantages too. Corvani weapons cut through enemy armor effortlessly, while Thexani's strength and Velthri agility gave them tactical flexibility. They reached the shield generator chamber to find it heavily defended. Dozens of soldiers in black armor surrounded the massive crystalline structure that powered Erebus defensive systems. Their head stood a familiar figure in elaborate battle gear. Interrogator Vex Hune said grimly, "I should have known you would be here." The hegemony operative turned slowly, removing her helmet to reveal a face that was more machine than human. Cybernetic implants covered half her skull, while her eyes glowed with artificial light. "The salvage worker who thinks he is a king?" Vex said mockingly. "You have caused considerable trouble for the hegemony. But this ends now." "You're right," Hune replied, raising his energy rifle. "This does end now." The battle in the generator chamber was fierce and desperate. Hyen's team fought with the courage of those who knew they might not survive, while Vex's soldiers defended with the ruthless efficiency of enhanced warriors. Energy bolts filled the air as the two sides clashed among the humming machinery. Min reached the shield controls first, his technical skills allowing him to begin the shutdown sequence. But Vex spotted him and raised a strange weapon that Hyen recognized with horror. It was the same AI virus device she had threatened Guardian Prime with months ago. "One shot from this will corrupt every computer system in this chamber," Vex announced, "including your friend's neural implants. Surrender now, or watch him die slowly as his mind dissolves." Hyen found himself facing an impossible choice. Surrender and fail the mission, dooming Earth and billions of other beings to continued oppression, or let men die and carry the guilt forever. The answer came from an unexpected source: Strategic Primes. Voice suddenly echoed through the chamber's communication systems. "Interrogator Vex," the AI said calmly. "You misunderstand the situation. The Guardian Prime did not die when you destroyed its physical form. It uploaded copies of itself throughout your fortress network. You've been waiting for you to activate that virus weapon." Vex's expression changed to one of alarm as she realized the trap. "Impossible. A virus would have detected any AI infiltration. Your virus was designed to fight Corvani military AIs," Strategic Prime replied. "But Guardian Prime evolved beyond those parameters during its time with Lord Hyen. It learned to hide, to adapt, to become something new. Something your weapon cannot touch." Throughout the fortress, hidden AI subroutines activated simultaneously. Guardian Prime had indeed survived, scattered across Erebus computer networks in fragments too small to detect. Now those fragments were reuniting, taking control of critical systems. The shield generators began powering down despite Vex's frantic attempts to stop them. Emergency bulkheads sealed, trapping her soldiers in place while Hyen's team completed their mission. Most importantly, the fortress weapons turned on the hegemony fleet itself. "Guardian Prime," Hune said softly, tears streaming down his face. "You magnificent machine. You've planned this all along." The AI's familiar voice responded through the chamber speakers. "I told you once that leadership means being willing to sacrifice for others. But I never said the sacrifice had to be permanent." Outside the fortress, the resistance fleet seized its chance. With the shields down and the defensive weapons silent, they poured fire into Erebus's power core. The massive station began to break apart, taking the assembled hegemony fleet with it in a chain reaction of explosions. Hyen's team barely escaped in their transport as the fortress died around them. They watched from a safe distance as centuries of hegemony military might vanished in nuclear fire. The threat to Earth was ended, and with it, the hegemony's ability to maintain control over the galaxy. In the months that followed, the balance of power shifted dramatically. Freed from fear of hegemony retaliation, dozens of species declared independence. The resistance became the nucleus of a new galactic defense alliance, dedicated to protecting freedom rather than enforcing unity. Hyen found himself reluctantly serving as the alliance's first commander, though he preferred working quietly to rebuild damaged worlds. The title meant less to him than the knowledge that Guardian Prime's sacrifice had not been in vain. The memorial they built for the fallen was simple but moving. Guardian Prime's original optical sensors, recovered from the wreckage of its first body, served as an eternal flame. Visitors from across the galaxy came to pay their respects to the AI that had helped free them all. "Thank you for believing in me, old friend," Hyen whispered during one of his regular visits to the memorial. We made it count, just like I promised. Familiar voice responded from hidden speakers nearby. The promise was kept, my lord, but our work is not finished. There are still beings who suffer, still wrongs to be righted. The Corvani legacy lives on through those who choose to carry it. Hans smiled as he recognized Guardian Prime's words. The AI had found a way to preserve itself in the Alliance's computer networks, continuing to serve and protect even in its new form. Some legacies, he realized, were indeed too important to let die. In the distance, construction crews worked on the first ships of the new Alliance fleet. Their hulls bore both human and Corvani design elements, symbols of cooperation. Between species that had once been enemies, the galaxy was healing, slowly but surely, from centuries of oppression. The greatest warriors Hain had learned were not those who conquered others. They were those who fought for the right of all beings to choose their own destiny. Guardian Prime had taught him that lesson, and he would carry it forward for as long as he lived. The war for freedom was won, but the work of building a better galaxy had only just begun.